Welcome to the Chesapeake Today Show. We're in the dark.
What is
Goodness
going
gracious,
on?
do we have a power outage?
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
Not
let's
again.
see if we can get the lights back on. There we go. Boy, if only Dominion Energy would have been that easy
Wow, and that quick.
and that quick.
That would have been nice.
So yeah, it is David and Kim here with your Chesapeake Today Show, and welcome. Last week, Kim, one for the patience and just understanding of residents, because 27 and a half hours is a long time.
Long time.
Particularly when the temperatures, humidity, we want to open up our windows. We know it feels better, but then on the flip side, it's that humidity. Bruce and the team did a phenomenal job with meals.
They did.
In fact, you were even part of that special buffet group.
I loved it.
Your breakfast club.
My other job.
That's right. So, I think there's going to be a movie made about our breakfast club.
Yes.
So, and I know we had almost 100 residents one morning.
Right.
Of the 2 days we did breakfast. And so I think that just was very well received. Again, if you've not heard specifically, that power outage, to what I've been told from of our longer term residents, is probably the third longest power outage we've had in recent memory.
Wow.
Going back around 15 years with a resident I was conversing with. And, we all remember a big hurricane a number of years back. What was that in this area? Was it Isabella or?
Was that 2002?
Was that the one? So that was a big one, and then I think there was another one. We were like at 30 hours, but this 27 and a half hours was significant. And yes, for the residents' knowledge, we are clearly looking at all provisions and how we handle things. We are talking with Dominion Energy to further explore possibilities such as, why can't we have dual circuits to this campus?
Okay.
Redundant.
Right.
If one goes off, the other one's on. Because, of course, our Gloucester Cottage residents were most appreciative that their power did not go off.
Wow.
Now, some of them felt guilty because the other 90% of the residents had no power.
Right.
And they're out there with their feet propped up in air conditioning. But all in all, I know it was miserable. And I just appreciate the extra efforts. And even for your team, taking around a little ice cream treat.
They were amazing.
So
And well received. The residents really did appreciate how we brought the ice cream just as the AC was coming up. We were just telling them, look, we want you to cool off while everything else is cooling off.
Yeah, well.
And it was wonderful.
Great. Well, again, high praise to everyone, and to the residents, thank you. And yes, please bear in mind, we're always researching and looking at how can we improve upon things, and we will certainly do so. Fantastic. Well, we're creeping right along here in the month of August.
Whew.
It was good news that over the last week or so, a little bit of improvement of COVID in our area.
Right.
A little bit of numbers coming down. We still, same theme, keep your mask up, don't let your guard down. So we don't stop that theme, but we're trying to also get some more programming going. So maybe before we get into programming, just tell me, is there any fun fact or anything you wanted to share this week?
It is. I thought what was really interesting is in 2003, August 10th, today, the first marriage happened on the moon while in space. So the astronaut, called a cosmonaut, like astronaut if you will, got married, and they used the satellite hookup via NASA. And I thought, wow, that was amazing that they were able to do that.
Marriage in space.
Marriage in space. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Look at technology.
Yeah. Well, last week it was, to me, very exciting, and I'm sure many of our residents, having worked in Langley, et cetera, watching that SpaceX capsule return. And, the first time in 45 years where a capsule actually came down by parachutes, landing in the Gulf of Mexico. And what was fascinating, you had the hurricane last week going up the one side of Florida. And then over on the Gulf side, the water was glass near Pensacola. And that's where the capsule came down, retrieved by a SpaceX ship, and both astronauts were in great shape. So it was, I'm sure for many of our residents, heartwarming to see that capsule under parachute. Because some of our people had something to do with that back in the 60s and 70s.
Isn't that something?
So that's another element of story of space.
Amazing.
Fine. So that's a little trivia. Alrighty. What's up with programming? What's some things happening for residents to see re-engagement, get involved?
The big exciting thing is Thomas Pandolfi will be here on Wednesday,
Okay.
August 12th, 2 showings. So we hope that we pack the house.
Good.
So we're going to have a 3 o'clock and a 7:30.
Okay. Is there any special instructions for residents about just show up? Are you hoping the numbers split themselves, or what are your thoughts?
So are we registering? No registration, just
Yeah.
show up. Yeah.
Okay. So you may want to think about that, residents, yourself. And all we can ask you is, if you happen to come to the earlier time and it does fill, consider the second time. What does fill mean? We're only at 50% capacity in the Chesapeake room. I know the team's looking at some additional chairs that we can put out, and now we have figured out, I'm speaking of the lobby area or the main atrium of the community center, but then we can also, we do have speakers out there. So, you know, you'll pick up his personality through his music. I understand he's just phenomenal. I remember seeing him perform here before. So great to get that performer and that entertainment flowing again.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll have a special keyboard mask on. Wonder what he's going to wear.
That would be
as
fun.
a pianist, if not, maybe we ought to create one for him. I don't know. But yeah, it'll be fun to see how he endures it, because you know, any entertainer has got to be longing to get back in front of a live audience.
Absolutely.
And for us to be safe, do it right, that would be great. All right, so that's one thing. Other things to be thinking about.
So we had a resident ask us about a event going out to see Michelangelo's paintings. So the Sistine Chapel is having, they're going to have a showing. They're going to use technology, and it's a trip that we're putting together, so we want them to be excited about it. I think they'll love it. They're going to take a trip to Norfolk. They're going to be able to eat at MacArthur Center, so that's nice. So I want them to be gearing up and looking out for the information for that. We're working on.
Is that a virtual, or how are they doing that, or is there some actually traveling exhibit?
No, they're going to be able to see them. So it's not going to be virtual. I mean, they're using technology, but they're going to see it. It's almost like a mosaic or something, like, say it's on the floor or on the ceiling or the wall, but they'll be able to actually see it.
Well, I've been in the Sistine Chapel. It's beautiful.
Okay.
And, you know, me and another 150 of my closest friends at that time segment, you know, looking up, seeing it all. You know, that and the entire Vatican is just breathtaking.
It is.
But when you think of probably the most renowned archives in the world of art, of literature, of books, the Vatican just, it's phenomenal what's been collected. So for that to be able to be shared in whatever form of technology, yeah, I think our residents would very much enjoy that.
I think they'll love it. It looked amazing. So kudos to Penny Minyaka. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Penny.
And we're working on a fair.
Okay.
So we hope.
Now, when I say a fair, I think about county fair.
Yes.
I think about a state fair.
You
I'm going
got
to get
it.
excited. I'm going to start singing, you know, Rogers and Hammerstein. Our state fair is a great state fair. Don't miss it. Don't even be late. It's dollars for donuts at our state fair. It's the best state fair at the Chesapeake. So maybe that's it.
That's the
Do you
fair.
think Crystal expected that one today? She
did
got
not.
some song and dance.
Look at those teeth.
That's right. Now, that just has such fond memories.
Yes.
And residents have heard me talk about that, because during that TV, or that movie, that's a classic of Oscars and Hammerstein, State Fair, I've got a copy of it. So I could bring it in. If you want to see it, we can put that in
Nice.
advance, sort of set the stage. But residents and all of us remember about going those wholesome events where, yeah, there's livestock. There's Blue Boy, the biggest pig in the entire state of Iowa. And then there's the spiciest mincemeat. So if you ever, residents know about me making mincemeat, that's in the movie. And then, of course, there's always the little games, the things you do along the arcade. And then, of course, food.
That's
Cotton
my
candy,
favorite.
corn dogs. So, am I hearing you suggest that maybe we're going to do our own version of a state fair?
Chesapeake's version.
Cool. That's exciting. Well, it's got a lot of neat material to it. And if I understand the vision of your team, we may be able to set this up a little bit cooler weather, but then at time segments, we can get any resident on campus, get all of our license areas involved, et cetera, to come through this fair and truly have some fun.
That's what we're trying to do.
Exciting.
Yes, and have them be engaged.
So do we have a projected time frame? Are we looking a little bit cooler weather, or when are you thinking?
Like the end of September, beginning of October.
Okay.
So we're looking at
Something to
those.
look forward to.
So we want them to prepare. And you might want to make mincemeat, maybe?
Well, I do that once a year. I'm all about that in November. I don't think I can crank it out again. But I would do this. I could have a little sampling because from my last year's production, I saved probably around half a gallon of mincemeat that's frozen.
Okay.
I will bring it and we could do it. Now, if it's the spiciest, just like the movie, 2 or 3 people tickled in a little bit of brandy and it became a little bit high octane. So we'll have to see what we can do with that. Okay, so that's that. You know what? I think Crystal's probably going to make me sing that song again in September. When we get excited, we'll have to do it again. So,
okay.
What fun. So, yes, I can get enthusiastic about that. And I can really see our residents enjoying that. So, a neat event, concerts happening, some other entertainment. Anything else you want to add to it?
We do. We're also working on the Alzheimer's walk with Shannon Smith. So she's putting that together. We're going to help her do whatever she needs to do, but we want all the residents, IL, AL, all of them to be involved.
And that may be one here on campus.
Yes.
Because I know there's challenges with our local Alzheimer's Association, bringing people together. So maybe we just create it as our own. Yeah, just really do it up. So that's a neat event. So that will be coming up. Okay.
Yes, so and we're looking at October for that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I know there's a lot more programming, some other activities and things you're all planning because if I remember correctly, you almost pushed it up to like 81 different opportunities for residents to enjoy here in August. So 81 new opportunities, so that's definitely ramping up, so that's wonderful. I know Uwe did a couple weeks ago his first live worship service on a Sunday afternoon.
That was wonderful.
And well in attendance, and he was just gleaming. He was just so happy to be able to do that. So that was some normalcy, seeing residents be able to come back into a 3 p.m. Sunday service. So good things there. Anything else?
Yeah, so we're working on a back to school supply drive. So we want all hands on deck with that. We want everybody to be involved, and we want to be able to be a blessing to those that are in need. We want to also find out about technology. So if any team member has needs for their children with that technology, so we can see how we can help them out in that capacity.
Fantastic. Well, and speaking of needs, I'll turn the clock again backwards. Thanks to all those who participated in the foundation breakfast. That being held July 31st was the date, and I'll be sure and put it out in some other ways, but just for you all who are watching this to hear, easily over 125 people participated over that, about 6:30 to 9:30. We got started a little bit early. Praise to my flipper partner, Travers Mayhew. Travers, it is wonderful working with you. We've got our matching spatulas. We're out there and we cranked them pancakes. So that was great. Chef Malcolm and the team did a wonderful job on the food arrangement that was also provided. It was a nice balance and delightful to see team members coming, and many of them would to go, making room for residents, and just a constant flow of filling all those tables. We slipped in one rectangular table, socially distanced. They gave us a couple more seating, and that just covered it well. So wonderful to see residents out, great team member participation. Chesapeake family, we doubled our previous record of how much was raised on a single date. Before, we were about 1,800. On that Friday, July 31st, you donated $4,200 to be distributed between Crisis Fund, Scholarship Fund, and Benevolence Fund.
Wonderful.
So back to helping, you mentioned the backpacks, but just so much more to the giving hearts of our residents and team members.
And much appreciated. That was wonderful.
Good. Anything else coming up?
We're going to work on with Uwe on some spiritual opportunities. I know they had the chaplain chats, so we're going to figure out how we can continue to do that. So stay tuned for that. And then that's about it for the segment as far as activities are concerned.
Fantastic. Alrighty. Well, for all residents, thanks for tuning in on this portion. Yep, a lot happening, and we'll keep you informed. Keep an eye on all the different things, including touchdown slides. There's still some virtual programming and things that we are pushing across, because some of you, we realize, still want to remain in your home, although we want you to feel comfortable and safe with mask on, being careful when you do come out. And we really are working hard to keep things clean for you. So that being said, that will end this segment, and stay tuned because we have a special interview today. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello and welcome back to Chesapeake Today. It's David, and this week it's my privilege to conduct an interview with Donna Yatkso, our Director of Social Services. Donna, great having you
Thank you for
with
having
me today.
me.
Oh, pleasure. I've been looking forward to you. See, yes, we know that you've sort of been dodging it, and you sort of acknowledged that, and you even had one of your proteges. She was interviewed, but today, residents, this is the real deal. You're going to get great information. So, Donna, you've really been a delight to work with. It's been my pleasure just to witness all that you've done for residents and for the Chesapeake. But it all started somewhere, so residents probably want to know about your background. Where are you originally from, family life? What do you like to share?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in New Jersey, Central Jersey, and I've had the privilege of meeting some other residents who are from New Jersey as well. Have married my high school sweetheart, so we'll be
Okay.
together 30 years, celebrating 20 years of marriage
30
next
years?
month.
What'd you
I
do?
know I don't look old enough.
Oh, I know. You must have got married when you were 10?
And we have 3 children, Jack's 17, Charlie's 12, and Hannah's 10. And they're very active. So along with work, I stay very busy.
Now, so is the oldest now driving?
Not yet. He's actually this week, he's taking his driving course down here. Driving in Virginia, getting your license is very different than New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we had a learning curve. So he's 17, but he's getting there. So he's taking the course this week. So hopefully by the end of next week, he'll be driving.
He'll be driving.
Yeah.
So has he already been maneuvering for what vehicle he'll drive, or how you're going to share all that?
Well, I'm proud to say he purchased his own car already.
Wow, that's very commendable. Excellent. So I'm curious. So what is it easier or more difficult to get a license in Virginia?
It's a lot more hoops to jump through.
Okay.
Much easier in New Jersey.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
So
a lot
New
of
Jersey, you
steps
show
down
up
here.
and just say you're part of the family.
You show up on
and
your
give
birthday.
me your license.
Yep.
Give me a license.
You show up on your birthday and you take the test. Here,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hoops, and if you don't know them ahead of time, it's hard to navigate. And of course, COVID threw a wrench in a lot of systems.
Yeah.
So learning that, but he's
Okay.
excited. He's a patient child, so
Good.
it's okay.
Well, hopefully patient,
Yeah.
safe driver.
Yeah.
And, I remember when my eldest started to drive, my oldest daughter, it's like, cool, you can start taking brother and sister to some things.
Exactly,
So as long as
yeah.
it's all participating and responsible, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
So, educational. Obviously you've aspired to some wonderful career opportunities and work, but where did it start? Where was your educational background, and what led you into this pathway?
Yeah, so I got my undergraduate and graduate degree from Rutgers University up in New Jersey with a concentration in geriatrics. My mother was a speech therapist my whole life and worked in long-term care. So all of our free time was spent volunteering, candy striping, doing those sort of volunteer work. And I was fortunate that I always knew what I wanted to do. So I had a clear picture of what my path was, and I was able to pursue it early on. So it was nice. So I was always volunteering in long-term care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said something that obviously residents will resonate with them, and that's candy striping. Goodness, that's almost like now a new term that will be no longer used. Our young people don't understand what that was.
Yeah, uniform and all.
Yeah.
in the hospitals, in the local hospitals.
Important program.
Yeah.
Rutgers. Well, I will, my parents went to Ohio State, and 3 of my children went to Ohio State. So, a few years back, we did welcome Rutgers into the Big Ten. Big Ten, which is now like the Big 13 or whatever number of schools.
Yeah,
so
we couldn't hang, but they allowed us in.
Yeah,
It didn't go well.
yeah, but glad you're part of it.
Yeah.
So that's good. So, career-wise, then, as you started, you pursue your degrees, started to have this background of your mother's exposure to healthcare, your own volunteering. Then, how did it evolve, and why social services and not another form of health-related work?
Just always looking to help individuals. After graduate school, I started actually out in hospice, and hospice holds a piece of my heart. And from hospice, it evolved into long-term care, and then long-term care evolved into continuing care retirement community in New Jersey. So it was just the phase of where my career led itself.
Well, fine. Well, I know right before joining us, I think you and your family had moved from Jersey, and it was another nonprofit,
Yes, it
religious-based
was,
community.
yes.
A little bit about that. Similar type of campus, or what was it like?
It was Presbyterian Homes and Services in New Jersey, had similar dynamics of the independent living, assisted living, and health care. We weren't fortunate enough to have the cottages, but of course, always growing, that's in their plans as well. I was very fortunate to find a community so similar. It was definitely a blessing when our family decided to make the move, and I looked for a career in Virginia. God had a plan for me and put this in my lap, and I could not have been more fortunate.
Good.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think, so too is with the Chesapeake, because as I joined the team 3 years ago, and I've often just looked at this wonderful group of talent that we have here, and clearly in the last year we've really upped our game and changed a lot, and there's some wonderful people here, but you were really one of the first that I could acknowledge came to us with that breadth of experience from a continuing care or life plan community. And I think it's a real important balance that we have some that come from, I'll call it the field of senior living, and then we have others that come from hospitality or educational backgrounds or whatever it might be. But I think it's just a really good, important mixture to our leadership group.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to see what is different state, different community, but the same issues, same concerns, same positives. So it's interesting to see that in my career, in the transition as well.
Good.
Yeah.
So as we now get a little bit deeper into that exact position and career, I know that you've really stepped up and helped us in so many ways, from not just the requirement that we have in our licensed areas when it comes to having a social worker or social services, but beyond that. So why don't we just start with that first element? I think residents, myself, we all have our vision of what a social worker, social services is, but why don't you elaborate a little bit more on that and perhaps how it relates first to those licensed areas?
So in the licensed areas, I'm there to oversee to make sure that we hit all our markers of requirements so that resident rights are being enforced and acknowledged, that residents are receiving any services that they are eligible for, and making sure that the staff is following the parameters that they need to follow within that licensed area. Moving on to the other areas, being a helper, really a helping hand. So I do everything from serving meals when our power's out, to helping with virtual visits when COVID hits us, to helping the residents transition. It's a big transition when they transition into independent living, and then again throughout the continuum. So I'm really there to just help navigate that for the families, the staff, and the residents.
So when I hear you describe that in navigation, just the key thing, and I think one of your strengths is communications, because that's really what you are. You're just a master communicator, talking amongst people, keeping them connected and informed. And I mean, you have to do it in 3 dimensions plus, between residents, between families, sometimes health providers, and then of course our own team.
Yeah, it's interesting because when residents move into a continuum care retirement community, they sign the contract and they know what they're buying into. But until you really need the services, you don't fully understand what is available. And that I enjoy that education of the residents to let them know, listen, our goal is always to keep you safe and independent in the apartment. Let's look for what services we could provide for you there. But if that's not realistic, let's see what else we have for you. And the benefit of living in a community like this is we have a level of care that will meet your needs to keep you independent.
Yeah, well, I think you're hitting on a topic maybe worth diving a little bit deeper, and that is residents come to the Chesapeake, come to a life plan community because of the availability of services, that insurance availability, that product. I often sometimes think of it as it's that airbag in a car that you hope never goes off, but if you do need something, we're here for you. Residents are often like, okay, I know why I came to the Chesapeake. I'm grateful that it has those levels of care, but they don't necessarily understand that navigation. So you mentioned that a lot of it's their safety and needs. What else might go into those considerations of when someone does move, or not necessarily criteria, but a little bit of that?
So when they're no longer able to live independently in the apartment, and it might not always be a permanent move. The benefit of a continuing care retirement and the levels of care is, God forbid, you have a knee surgery or a hip surgery or have an illness that has you needing a little more services. You're able to transition both ways. You can go to assisted living, you can go to healthcare, but when you regain your strength or independence, you're able to go back to independent living. So it's working to them to see what their needs truly are. Sometimes they don't always know them, and sometimes we don't always know them. Residents, especially now with COVID being isolated in the rooms, we're able to see a lot more of needs that they have, or they've come to us and said, Meals have been really difficult for me. Laundry is very difficult for me. What do you have that could help me with those? So it's us understanding as well as them understanding, or the family's understanding exactly what those needs are. Yeah, and they're not always clear.
Yeah, and I think that also, I think it's fair to say there's a number of tools in your toolbox. You know, sometimes residents may think it's just a very clean cut, well, it's a move to assisted living, or perhaps it's a move to memory care or health care. I think there's a lot more services that we can provide, sometimes in their existing environment, to help them remain safe, as you said.
Yeah, and I want them to realize that calling me isn't always meaning that a move is necessary, but the support is there. I'm always there to support the services that we could provide in the apartment. Maybe not only internal, but external as well. Programs or services we could bring in to help them. So that's important to know, that calling Donna does not mean a move, or Donna visiting them does not mean a move is going to happen, but that I'm there to support them. And the best line of defense is that early call, is letting me know, what are you struggling with? What can we help you with now before it becomes a problem?
So when I think from a resident's perspective, they have quick awareness and get to know Damien, or get to know Morgan or Cheryl within the wellness center or clinic. How do you collaborate and help the residents understand that teamwork, or what happens between all of you?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate to be able to work with the clinic hand in hand, so we really see ourselves as a team. So when there is a concern, Damien, Morgan, and myself go in as a team trying to hit all the aspects. Maybe you don't need the social worker at that time, but I'm there to provide the support. Maybe you don't need the clinic and you're looking more for conversation, someone to talk to. So we tag team. The addition of Damien has been wonderful to our community, and the communication between the team lets everybody know what's needed. So we're able to jump in together, or step back if it's something that's not needed.
Yeah. When I hear that teamwork and what I sort of perceive is delivered to the residents, it's almost like it's a case by case. Every resident's a little different. Your own needs are different. And it's almost like you're performing a social support health services in a concierge environment.
Exactly.
Because there's no one prescription that fits all. You're having to really assess and determine, and it's all about, our mission statement. We're empowering individuals with choices and purposeful living. And by us empowering individuals, we want them to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah, there is no one case that's the same, no one move that's the same, but they're all exciting, and it makes me feel good to be able to help them and make it as smooth as possible.
Good. Yeah. Well, I know this is a good introduction. I'm sure there will be calls to Crystal and to Kim saying, we need Donna to produce a segment for Chesapeake University.
Absolutely.
So if it's not already scheduled, trust me, I think it's going to be important, because this is just one of those things that, an independent resident moves in, they don't want to, per se, learn a lot about the levels of care. They just know it's here. Yeah. But then as they become more acquainted with the community, their eyes open and they want to learn more.
Yeah, and educating them. Absolutely. Educating everybody in understanding.
Very good. So then, I'm going to turn backwards to, heard about your family. I know a lot of time and energy goes into that. But what else is about that? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What's your joy?
Time. Gardening. As my friends call it, I dig in the dirt. Donna's digging in the dirt. I love to garden. I love to watch my middle son play baseball. He's a really good baseball player. And my family golfs.
Okay.
Donna, not so much anymore. But I go out with them and I watch them golf. Yeah.
Well, fine.
But gardening is my love.
And vegetables, flowers?
Flowers.
Okay.
Flowers. So much so that in the COVID times, I've been helping some of our neighbors garden as well. So they've appreciated that.
Very
I
nice.
said, I don't have enough to do on my own property. Can I come and help you with yours?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you make house calls?
I do.
I need some help. I need some help. Vera is my gardener, and with her being laid up right now after foot surgery, everything's up to me.
He's saying, you like to do this?
Yeah.
I sure do.
But I tell you what, though, for our garden, we figured out real quickly how to put in this wonderful little watering hose. Got it hooked to a wireless network. I can push a button. It's being watered twice a day. I'm not going to kill it now. So our garden is pretty good. In fact, the other day, I had to show Vera, I pulled out underneath the huge zucchini leaves. I said, gee, Minnie, here's your 5-pound baby. And it was a huge zucchini hiding from me. I didn't realize it. I think it was sucking the nutrients from everything. So now that I pulled that big baby away, maybe others will come. I don't know.
Yeah, my sons laugh at me when we walk at night and I'm critiquing other people's gardens. They say, Mom, you can't go in the middle of the night and weed their gardens for them. I said, but I'd like to.
All right. Well, if you've never chatted with Jim Johnson, have you met him yet?
I have not.
You need to. Jim is right now head of our funny farm, and just phenomenal. And I'm always impressed. If I only had an ounce of all the knowledge our residents have when it comes to flowers and gardening, you know, even yours. I'm a novice, and I have great appreciation for it, but wow, way to keep things pretty.
Well, it's interesting, Virginia, very different. The humidity, the temperature, so what's growing down here, what's not growing down here, it's,
So
it's going to be a learning experience in the last year.
Well, you have to share pictures in the future. People want to know. Real fine. Well, Don, it's a delight again. You being part of our Chesapeake team. I'm sure residents have enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better today. So just, again, thank you so much. Thanks for your message, and thank you for being just an excellent ambassador for our residents.
Yeah, and thank you to the staff and the residents for being so welcoming in the last year.
Fantastic.
It's been a wonderful transition.
All righty.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes this segment of Chesapeake Today and this week's special interview. Have a great week. Thank you.